Well, good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to a joint symposium between AIO and APAO on the perspective of translating AI and digital technology into the real world. We're sorry that Paul Chan cannot join us today. He's in the plane at the moment. So may I introduce my co-chair, Dr. Kim Ramasamy, and my name is Dr. Paisan from Bangkok, Thailand. Dr. Kim is here in India. Since the Paul Chan is not here, may I call the Daniel Ting, the first speaker, to talk about APAO perspective on AI in Asia Pacific. Please.
I'm sure everybody have heard Daniel Ting, Daniel Ting. When the AI is synonymous with Daniel Ting's name, you see a lot of articles. So here, Daniel is here to share his
Thanks, Kim, for the kind introduction. Hi, everyone. So, for the next about 8 to 10 minutes or so, we're going to talk about the AI use and applications in the Asia Pacific, the side of the things. I'm trying to actually do a bit of the contrast about what US is doing, and of course, the rest of the speaker like Pete and others can actually share more. So this is some of my financial disclosure. So if you look at the Asia Pacific population, right now we are sitting at a region with 4.3 billion populations. And our side of the world, believe it or not, it consists of 60% of the total world population. So this is where we are actually currently sitting, and no different from the Western world. We are experiencing the aging society. And of course, when people start to get old, people start having more problems. That includes the eye problems as well. So, this is Dr. Wang's paper that was published in the APJO that actually highlighted the demographic change in the Asia Pacific region. And the top bar shows that the population that's aged 60 years old and above, and you can see the graph is continued to rise. And of course, that is consistent with the prevalence of blindness, the visual, both on the moderate and the severe visual impairment as well. So let's take a little the slight spin into the AI space. We know, the AI has rapidly evolved for the past 60 to 70 years. And for the last 3.5 years, I would say that, for those of you who are actually driving your car, it's like a V8 turbo engines is actually really accelerating for the last 3.5 years. And this is just a very high level sharing about how the AI space has evolved from, just playing around with numbers, which is the machine learning and the risk prediction, logistic regression, to like pixel-based, which is a computer vision space, to the text-based, which is large language models, as well as, of course, now we are talking about the visual language model and multimodal. And in order to actually, do what we can do, we first, of course, we all use CPUs and now GPUs, and of course, a lot of us also have heard of this thing called quantum computing as well. And irrespective of what we do, we always need to make sure that the reporting standards, the consensus guidelines is, being taken care for. Personally involved in a few different consensus statements myself. And AI safety, I think, is important. How do you protect your own data? And if you were not to share data, how do you actually collaborate to build AI models? That's one. And of course, now we're talking about building foundation models. So how do we preserve the data? So in my later slides, I'm going to share with you some of the AI large language model that's that consists of closed source and open source. Responsible AI. What about how do we explain what the AI is saying, what the AI is doing? Is there any AI biases that we need to be aware of? And of course, compared to the US versus the Asia Pacific, the population, this is a very key, the problems that we need to make sure that it doesn't happen. And of course, if you were to implement this, is there a difference between the US versus our part of the world as well? So I think this is one of the papers that we published slightly just 1.5 years ago. Currently, it's been cited more than 2,000 times now. It's on average 100 times per month. So essentially, we highlighted the opportunities to, about the large language model in the medical applications. That includes, organization and summarizations of electronic medical records, and how do you use that to actually in the clinical trials or clinical operation settings, and of course the clinical decision support too. How do we build a software as a medical device out of the large language model? And if you just, this is just a very snapshot about what the evolutions of large language models for the last 2.5 years that we see in the space. And we published this paper together with the IAPB group, and to look at if we were to use AI in the global health settings, the under-resourced settings, how we should be doing it. If there's no telecommunication network, can we actually then still deploy AI in the mobile eye clinic settings? So those are the few things that we have to actually kind of adjust the deployment of AI based on the existing infrastructure of the the country or the infrastructure support. And if you look at the myopia, is also again one of the things that actually is more prevalent in the Asia, but again the Western world is also slowly catching up. So this is one of the other areas that in the opening ceremony, one of the Indians, the retina specialist is actually talking about, if we were to do this, how can India actually be playing a role? And when we talk about the AI applications, we also need to make sure that we do not forget the journey. So when you want to build algorithms, more than 90% usually stays in the research publication space. Then you move on to the digital integrations. After you clear your IP, you have to start deploying in your clinic. And of course, I'm sure everyone knows what this cartoon is from Inside Out. If you were to sustain it, right? How do you do it? And we know 99% of the startup fail. You can raise a lot of funding, but you can't find your business model, you'll fail eventually. So I think this is where then you'll give me a segue into translating AI into real world settings. When we actually, irrespective of the part of the world, we always have to look for clinical intended use. That's very important, right? Whether you refer or not, whether you use the AI algorithm to treat or not treat, this is some of the commonly built AI algorithms that we see in the space. How do we deploy it? Is it 100% AI? Is it like going to be semi-automated? Is it going to be 100% assistive? This is something that, when you use the AI algorithms, you have to actually think about it from the outset. And of course, where you deploy it, is it on cloud? Is it on premise? Is it on the device? This is another, very, commonly, considered the factors. Of course, the differences between the Asia Pacific versus the US, if you clear the FDA, you have 1/3 of the population under your belt, same for China. But in the Southeast Asia, in Middle East, it's highly fragmented, the regulatory space. So how do you actually navigate this space? And of course, the reimbursement models, different countries will have different ways that how we should actually be paying for the AI. And how do we generate the return on investment? So these are the two papers that we published in the Lancet series journals. If we were to calculate health economic analysis, including cost minimization analysis, cost effectiveness, analysis, or even cost utility, analysis, how do you do that? What factors should you be considering? So we actually highlighted it into 4 different pillars that you can see from the screen. I won't go through it all. And this is just one of the examples in US. If you have a reimbursement code, the adoption rate is going to be high, and this is without a doubt. So, but how do we actually use it in Singapore to actually, create a national tele-screening program using health economic analysis? So this is where the comparison arms, the research question have to come in. So we actually leverage on something called cost minimization analysis, with the assumption that if the AI technology is comparable with the human performance, how much cost are we going to save in the national settings? And of course, regulatory and ethical challenges is always something that is actually close to our heart, especially in the large language model space. The moment that you inject the data into Open AI or ChatGPT, you can be rest assured that the data can never be actually recrawl back. So this is something that you have to be very, very careful about. Who owns the data? Where's the data provenance? What's the IP contaminations? Yeah, and this is where we need different framework to actually regulate and govern the different AI algorithms. And when we talk about US versus the Asia Pacific side of the world, we have to make sure that the social determinants of health is being actually considered when you actually build any AI algorithms. So with this, I thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, as usual, a wonderful talk. I think you highlighted a lot of it on the deployment and the practical use of in the clinical practice. So how much would you say that Singapore, what percentage of your work is AI driven? Is there any number that you can put at this point?
It's not as high as I want it to be. I think this is, the short answers. I think with, the Selenium Plus, which is the AI algorithms that we developed for DR screening, now is actually embedded into a national screening program. That's one. But I think from then to now, there's a lot of the things that we are still currently thinking, how can we actually first get people to pay? And of course, the other thing that I wanted to also highlight that how much AI is being used right now. Since the advent of large language models, we are actually leveraging on a lot of the co-piloting technology to actually incorporate not so much on the SAMD space, but more on the hospital administrations and clinical operation related stuff. So we are actually, for the last 2.5 years, I see a boost, but if I were to give a percentage, I say maybe like 20–25%, yeah, but it has to go up.
But
yeah.
Still, yeah. Any questions to Dr. Daniel? Yes, sir. You want to go before me?
Right. So great presentation.
Thanks.
What I want to know, Dr. Daniel, is that in this whole space, especially in health AI, there's a lot of fragmentation, right? Every country, every organization, startups, trying to attack more or less the same problem. Do you see if there is a concerted effort to kind of consolidate this? So in terms of large language models, you don't have 10,000 large language models, right? You have a couple of models, right? If all this research effort, if all this effort is consolidated, is it a good idea? Is it possible? Should it be the way?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. How do we collaborate in the world of the large language model era? I think, there's a very huge digital divide between the technology companies, right? So one is open source, one is closed source. So for me, in order to encourage people to work together, you have to open source your foundation model so that people can use it and then start personalizing it to different domains. And same thing for medical imaging. So right now we also start seeing a lot more foundation models being published, and most of them are open source. So I think this is a heartening thing to see. So this is more on the model development part. The reimbursement model part, I think, unfortunately, we will see more and more players coming out. But whether or not, the payment model will change, I think a lot of the different governments are trying to think how, if we can actually justify the return on investment, maybe there's a way to actually pay for the solutions. The space is currently the development is still currently underway, but I'm quite hopeful that, next 3 to 5 years' time, the space will slowly change, yeah.
Thank you.
Just to contribute to what you said, this is just theory for me. I just came across the word federated AI, wherein a lot of decentralization is what is being planned, that people are going to keep their data to themselves, but there will be some sort of one aggregate where, without sharing the raw data, still the models can be continued to be built. Probably that is something which will work very well for healthcare, because especially healthcare is very sensitive when it comes to sharing data across borders. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's going to take some time. Actually, with the federated data, it will evolve, but it is going to be, it's in early stage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Daniel. The next speaker is Dr. Ho-Tin Lin from China, who is going to speak on the perspectives of AI in health in China. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here in person, but we will see him, we'll hear from him, recorded video.
Good morning, dear Professor and colleagues.
Can you increase the volume?
From Gosan Observing Center. My presentation is mobile-based cell screening for liver surface tumors. First, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to JOC. JOC is the leading eye hospital in China, based cell screening for ocular surface tumors. First, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to JOC. JOC is the leading eye hospital in China, serving over 1.4 million outpatient visits annually, with more than 100,000 surgeries performed, including cataract, retinal and refractive surgeries. JOC is a leader in the field. JOC has been ranked first in ophthalmology by the best hospital in China for 14 years in a row. We now serve as the WHO's collaborating center for eye care and vision, and host the headquarters of the APAO. With its commitment to exceptional patient care, education, cutting-edge research, and global collaboration, JOC remains at the forefront of ophthalmology in China. Good morning, dear professors in law. We now serve as the WHO's collaborating center for eye care and vision, and host the headquarters of the APAO. With its commitment to exceptional patient care, education, cutting-edge research, and global collaboration, JOC remains at the forefront of ophthalmology in China. On the occasion of our 60th anniversary, we are excited to host the International Ophthalmology Hospital Presidents Summit. We welcome you to reunite in Guangzhou for this precious ophthalmic assembly and immerse yourself in the charm of South China. Malignant pigmented tumors on the eye surface are rare and often missed. They frequently go noticed because people are unaware of them, and there's a shortage of specialists in treating these conditions. So detecting this rare disease is like finding a needle in a haystack and nearly impossible. Consequently, they often go undetected, especially when they look like common eye nevi. Although it's a rare disease, it deserves attention and requires early detection and treatment. Because the harm caused by these tumors is severe, delay in treatment can lead to a lot of problems such as facial deformities, corneal lesion, and vision loss. Moreover, delayed treatment increases the risk of life-threatening complications, often requiring aggressive surgeries such as eyeball removal or even excisions of orbital contents. Early screening is vital to minimize the damage and avoid severe outcomes. Therefore, we need an effective and universal screening test to detect eye surface pigmentation and ensure rare cases are identified. As we know, traditional manual screening is limited by the cost of manpower and resources, making it unsuitable for detecting such rare disease. We believe that the development of artificial intelligence technology offers hope for resolving this dilemma. We have developed the capture tumor CAT model based on multi-center slit length photography data. The CAT can effectively distinguish between benign and malignant tumors and provide specific diagnosis in external tests. We believe the ultimate goal of technology is to serve specific tasks and solve specific problems. In this study, our goal is to implement universal screening for malignant pigmented tumors on the eye surface in a real-world setting. As such, our model development is far from complete. With the advancement of mobile internet, smartphones have become a standard accessory for people. Hence, we decided to use smartphones as hardware carrier for the CAT model. Since CAT was trained on slit lamp photographs, we first tested it using respective smartphone image before developing the mini app. However, when we applied the model to real-world smartphone images, its performance fell short of expectation, showing a significant drop across various metrics. After further exploration and multiple comparative experiments, we ultimately identified proper exposures, accurate focus, and appropriate image cropping as the key factors for ensuring the stable performance of the CAT model. Additionally, considering the wide user base of WeChat and the advantages of WeChat mini apps in China, like not needing to download and working on both Android and iOS, we choose to develop a WeChat mini app as the software carrier for the CAT model. To help ordinary users achieve these three aspects when taking photos in real-world settings, we put significant efforts into developing the interactive interface of the WeChat mini app. We designed a simple and user-friendly experience, allowing users with no previous knowledge to capture suitable images for the CAT model on their first attempt. This ensures the model's accuracy in tumor identification. Here are some interactions details of the WeChat mini app. First, users are shown a guidance video. During the photo taking process, the system provides voice prompts instructing them to turn on the flash, position the lesson at the center of the grid, and tap on the lesson to focus. In addition, to better adapt the CAT models for smartphone photos, we refine it using retrospective images of eye tumors captured with smartphone. This helps the model improve its ability to recognize images from various devices. Following this series of developments and optimization, our CAT models achieve strong performance on smartphone. Next, to further validate CAT's diagnostic performance in real-world settings and achieve universal screening for malignant pigmented tumors on the eye surface, we decided to conduct a real-world study. We designed a comprehensive screening process for this purpose. First, we raised awareness about eye lesson, slow, easy-to-read articles shared on social media and in the press. Then we encourage people to perform a simple self-check by looking at themselves in the mirror. Next, we made it incredibly easy to access our mini app. Users could simply click the link at the end of the articles to take a picture and upload it. Finally, we provide AI-powered diagnosis to help people determine whether they should monitor their condition or consult a doctor. Here are more details about the real-world studies. The results show that our science content articles reach over 250,000 people, with over 13,000 of them showing interest in our WeChat mini app and checking it out. About 600 people signed the electronic constant form and completed the photo taking process. After completing the entire process, we performed surgical removal for 25 individuals, and final pathology confirmed that 20 of them had malignant tumors. In summary, in the real-world environment, the CAT model achieved performance that meets clinical application needs. Under our three-level screening model, we identified 20 cases of malignant eye surface pigmentation from over 250,000 people in last 6 months. At a very low cost of manpower and resources, accomplishing what was previously considered impossible. This demonstrates the excellent economic and social benefits of this new disease screening model. At the same time, our research provides a practical reference for the application of artificial intelligence technology in real-world settings, and we hope that this approach will continue to be refined and expanded to cover a wide range of diseases, ultimately improving public health outcomes on global scale. Special thanks to Dr. Shao Wei for organizing this presentation for me. We appreciate the support from our collaborating institutes. The research team is shown in the bottom right. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Since Hao Jie is not here, any questions? Probably not. May call on our next speaker, which is my co-chair, Professor Kim Ramasmy. He's going to talk about the AI in eye health in Asia. Please, Dr. Kim.
Thank you, Dr. Paisan. Good to have you here. And it's an American Academy and the APAO together organized this, so we have good speakers from both the places. I'm speaking on the perspectives of using AI in India. AI has seen a tremendous use of AI in the last decade. More so, it started with the low-hanging fruit, the diabetic retinopathy screening. It starts from getting the patient into the clinic and improving the overall process of care that much more efficient. What are the use cases? One, screening and diagnostic for patient identification. Efficiency for the ophthalmologist, both in the clinic and OT. Operating room, how do you use AI and to provide insights into the diseases with data, because that's the thing, that's the whole purpose of collecting this data. DR screening, as we all know, traditional, we have been doing this for the last 20 years, so they're doing a traditional screening using a trained grader or a retina specialist to grade the images. Where the whole process takes about few hours, and there's a high degree of variability between the readers, and it is also bottlenecked by the availability of either the graders, trained graders, or the retina specialists. While AI kind of instantly changes everything, the report is generated less than a minute, high degree of consistency, availability of 24/7 it's available, and more importantly infinitely scalable. So this was published in 2016, the JAMA paper, which was a landmark paper at that point of time. We have now using this same AI tool, what we call as automated retinal disease assessment tool for DR screening, both in India, and Dr. Paisan also is using the similar algorithm. We are using it in two locations, one in the diabetic clinics where we were doing the diabetic screening traditionally by manual grader, and then in the primary eye care clinics where the technicians are screening the patients for eye diseases in general. So we have screened, and after the use of AI, starting to use AI, we have screened almost 1 million patients, 1 million eyes in this time between these two use cases. But as you can see, the diabetic clinics have 3 times the prevalence rate of diabetic retinopathy because you are screening the target population. That's why we keep saying the onus of screening the diabetic retinopathy should be with the with the physicians and diabetologists, and not just with the ophthalmologists. So what next after diabetic retinopathy? We are currently working on, a lot of effort is going on. Remedio has already come up with the glaucoma AI tool, well validated. We're working on this, age-related macular degeneration and few other pathologies. Also for cataracts in primary health centers, if they can identify using just a photo. And recently, one of the work that we are also working with the KCI Institute is to distinguish between bacterial and fungal ulcers from just the photo taken of the patient's eye. If that can be done, especially the problem is in our scenario, these patients, the fungal ulcers are in the remote rural areas where we do not have access to identifying them and treating them properly. Retinopathy of prematurity, Dr. John Campbell is here. We have been working with them where we are doing a lot of tele-screening for in all the NICUs for ROP for quite some time across all the urban centers, and we are also using the IROP eye intelligence software developed with their team, and it's still in the validation process. Papers have been published. So this is the way to go, and we will soon see more usage of this, because in our country with the dearth of retina specialist, pediatric retina specialists, this is a challenge, and we need to use this in this way. As I mentioned, fungal keratitis is something that we are working on to see how we can have patients can be identified at that point of diagnosis or screening. Also, having trained technicians in the rural areas to identify eye diseases is becoming a challenge. So can we use AI-enabled systems to triage patients in the primary eye care centers? This is some focus. If we can do that, then the patients who really have problems will end up coming to the hospitals or the tertiary centers. So these are any unskilled persons should be able to triage the patients. Also, efficiency in the clinic. One of the problems as retina specialists I would see is the summarizing long patient records. We have patients who are come for 40, 50 visits or 100 visits. How do we get this in a single snapshot? Can AI do that? Automated charting is another problem. This is just a data summarization tool we are trying to use where this patient who has for 50, 60 visits, you can look at every visit, what injection was given and what was the IOP at that point of time. And then there's also a chatbot with which you can ask any question related to which injection the patient was responded to very well, or did the patient have any problem during this process. It could highlight that and alert you. This is another patient. Can I have the volume? Basically the doctor and patient interaction, they are talking in any language, any Indian language they can.
And there's no mic anymore.
So the doctor is talking and the system is hearing, and within a few seconds it interprets beautifully in the language, whichever language, Hindi, English, Tamil, whatever the patient speaks, all is converted into a proper clinical terms and placed in the appropriate boxes of, anterior segment finding, complaints and stuff. So this really makes a lot of difference, because one of the complaints with the EHR is doctors spending more time in looking at the computer than looking at me. So here it will be completely different, where the patient doesn't have, doctor doesn't have to look at the system. He just has to talk to the patient and examine the patient. The whole process is documented. Another thing is the CAT-skill system for analyzing cataract surgery, which we are working with the Kellogg's in Michigan to see how to analyze the different, when the ophthalmic surgeons are in training, how to identify, how to analyze their cataract surgery, what are the mistakes they are making. So these tools will help looking at the videos and analyzing and giving you the scores. Federated data that you were talking about, that is, we are working on with the Maastricht University to see, develop federated tools, what we call as fair data, that is fair, findable, accessible interoperable and reusable data. These platforms will facilitate secure and global collaborative research will become possible with these kind of data, maintaining the patient privacy and stuff. Quantifying, like Rajiv Raman and his team has published this. They are doing this, quantifying fluids in AMD and macular edema. If the system AI tool can observe this and let us know based on the treatment, how it is responding, I think we'll go a long way in that. We are also working with the Google on this, identifying, just taking an external eye photos, can we identify certain systemic biomarkers? This was published last year, where you can find the EGFR, HbA1c, amino aspartate transfer, and few other things can be evaluated just by taking a photo. Remedio has done a lot of work trying to see how the retina can be a window for identifying a lot of these systemic parameters like kidney disease, heart disease. We have all of us heard that, but these are all work in progress, really need a lot of data to validate this. In summary, AI has definitely the potential to bridge gap in access, especially in a country like ours, affordability and quality of care. It also gives us exciting ways to improve our health and screen more people, and we also can work smarter to see beyond the eye to improve the overall health. So thank you again. Thank you.
Questions? Any questions for Dr. Kim about the AI in India? Yeah.
Can you use
the same question which I have asked Dr. Daniel also. Is the future, right? Is it a better future to have something like open source models, right? Where all the innovation, and at least in terms of the capital is deployed not in a fragmented way. It is actually, for example, you could have for example, India, open source model for, foundational model for I.
I think his question is open source versus proprietary.
Right.
Yeah.
And also kind of aggregating this whole effort, right? So much of fragmentation. Is it a well use of a capital?
Yeah, it is happening. There are more platforms that are getting generated now. I don't know if you heard of this Trinetex. Odyssey is something that is developed by the clinical group. I think it's going to have a change in the mindset of how people see the data, and then bringing it together. There's a lot of attempt that is happening. It's a matter of time when we will see this. Yes, sir.
So that's a very interesting debate that he started. You see, since we've given over our clinical data to several large transnational corporations, if we go back to the image banks which were available in the West, what they did was they anonymized the data, and then after using it with X proprietor, after some time it was made available to the researchers as anonymized data. Why? Because they need to train. The researchers need to train their tools, need to learn new things. When it goes only to transnational corporations, and we've not charged anything for that data. We've worked for, you've named one particular proprietor whose validation studies we've performed, all of us. And we've not taken any benefits. So I think there is a very strong case for us to talk in terms of placing all this data as anonymized data banks for all of us to start using them for developing further algorithms.
That's absolutely true. There's a lot of, I said, Government of India is making that attempt to bring that thing for the country. I think so that effort will go on. I think it's just a matter of time, sir. It will happen.
So because we saw this, I was working with a group once, and they wanted, for an ImageNet analysis, we needed some data, and we found that a lot of data we've given to some of these corporations, And that data, you know, when I have to pick up that data, I have to talk to 5 different people. There is, so if you anonymize it, they've done it in 4 or 5 other countries. That's how the Ann Arbor criteria came in. The problem with digital data is that, you know, Ann Arbor is slightly, it is not adequate.
Yeah.
So we will have to have more criteria. That's where we need to sit down and talk. How do we proceed with anonymization? Because, you know, what you anonymize is not anonymous for the machine. The machine can identify.
Yeah.
There are those embedded things inside that we have to, like that, those are the things that we need to work out.
Sure,
basically.
I agree. Thank you. Next, I call upon Dr. Paisan. I think Paisan is also well known he's from Thailand. Well known in this field of AI and using AI. They've deployed it in the government setup in the whole country for screening, and we'll hear from Dr. Paisan on AI governance in ophthalmology.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kim. It's my pleasure to speak with you today. It's my financial discussion. Well, why we need AI governance? Well, governance ensures ethical, safe, effective AI deployment, and ensures patient safety and trust, mitigates risk and bias and errors of AI, and aligns AI with clinical and ethical standards. And actually, the governance kind of like we required for regulatory approval or compliance as well. But this is a kind of general perspective of AI principles. You can see it covers many aspects like human-centric, fair competition, education, welfare, innovation, sustainable development, equality, privacy, fairness, inclusiveness, safety and security, robustness, transparency, explainability, accountability, auditability. This is, you may say this is what, and then we turn it to like how, and then we, how should we design and develop AI model. Well, actually there are many statements for the AI governance at the moment, but the first one should come from the EU group. This is the first EU AI Act, the first regulation on artificial intelligence. This is back in 2019 or something. But I just retrieved this paper. In Singapore, well, Daniel may know this. We also have the kind of like AI governance in Singapore as well. This is from the Singapore's webpage, PDPC from Singapore. And China also have it. AI governance principles released from China. However, this is a webpage from Library of Congress in the US, not from China, but from the Library of Congress in the US. Well, this is the kind of like ethical and governance guideline from the World Health Organization. I think it's very interesting. If you're interested in, you can download this from the website of the World Health Organization. You can see there's a lot of contents in this document, like application of AI for health, laws, policies, key ethical principles, ethical challenges, building an ethical approach to use of AI, liability regimes, elements of frameworks, and many stuff, like more than 100 pages. I'm going to talk about the end of this document, which is an annex, consideration for the ethical design, deployment, and use of AI for health. It's not only for ophthalmology. They classify this document into like 3 parts: consideration for the AI developers, Ministry of Health, and healthcare institute and providers. This is for consideration for the AI developers. There are three items: designing an AI technology, developing an AI technology, and deploying AI technology. For the first one, designing an AI technology, you should clarify the objectives of the AI technology, engage in multiple stakeholders, define kind of relevance, ethical issues, assess risk, and privacy should be by design and default as well. In terms of developing, you should identify regulatory requirements, establish data management plans, adopt the standard and best practices. In terms of deployment, you should engage and educate multiple stakeholders, evaluation, and improve performances. For the Ministry of Health, well, this is what Thailand, Thai government of health play roles in this. We need to protect health and safety of patients. That's the first one. We need to assess appropriateness and necessity for AI, testing, monitoring, and evaluating AI tools, and assess liability and processes for the undue damage caused by AI as well. We should prepare for the introduction of use of AI, institutional prepare and technical capacity, infrastructure of AI, data management. This may be the job of the Minister of Public Health. We need to address ethical and legal challenges and protect human rights, preserve and enhance human autonomy, patient agency for predicting algorithms, privacy, confidentiality, and informed consent in collection and use of data of patients, just like some other questions before, and transparency of technology and ensure equity access. This is in the level of health. This is from WHO. And the last one is for the healthcare institute and provider, which may, all of us here may belong to this category. Is the AI technology is necessary and appropriate? We need to prioritize safety, promote transparency, address bias, safety, privacy, institutional, regular, challenge, and review. Is the context which the AI technology will be used appropriate? We should identify which clinical setting that we're going to use AI technology. We should understand local perspective as well. Just at the symposium today, I think, well, there are different perspectives on each country, right? Each country have different perspective on AI use. Should a healthcare provider use the AI technology? Who is the one who use it? The nurses or the doctors? Ensure info provided by AI can be interpreted and understand the risk of the level of risk and ensure responsible use of AI. Well, that's kind of like principle that I primed you at the beginning, and I'm going to show you a case study of AI governance for the screening that we are facing in Thailand at the moment. Well, in Thailand, if you want to purchase a fundus camera, a new fundus camera at the moment, they all have AI built into the camera. Well, this is like five company of camera in Thailand. They all have AI model. Company A have an AI from Taiwan, A and B from Taiwan, C from China, D from Taiwan, and E from Korea. And you can see, the thing is, look at the camera E, you can see diagnosis of the severity. There's no diagnosis of diabetic retinopathy severity in the camera E. And you can see all the camera, there's no diagnosis of DME, which is the most common cause of visual loss from diabetic retinopathy at the moment. So the thing is, well, the camera that the nurses use in Thailand at the moment is the director of the hospital that purchased them. It's not the user that purchased them. So, well, for example, for this camera, actually this is a handheld camera, right? And it's built into like a chin rest. This is rather difficult to use. Well, a kind of like slow workflow for using, and they have rather poor image quality. And as I mentioned, the device integrated with AI. Once you, well, FDA in Thailand approved the camera, they approved AI automatically. They didn't test the AI model. They just approved with the camera. And there's no DME grading, as I mentioned earlier. So how we gonna, well, kind of deal with these problems? So we create a benchmark for a platform for benchmarking different AI models. This is on the web. We may ask each of the AI camera brands of the company submit each of the AI models into this platform. And with this platform, the AI developer can upload the AI models and select the dataset for testing using this platform. You can see, well, once we upload it, this is kind of like progression of the Docker uploading. I just show you a different screenshot for this platform. This is the status of the model testing. We can test the model, real time with the internet. And this is download the prediction result. We can, benchmark different AI models using this platform in the internet. However, we need to do a kind of like training AI for the users in various parts of Thailand as well. This is our training in the last 2 years. We need to, kind of like give them AI literacy. Here's the summary of AI governance for AI models for the screening in Thailand. Well, all AI models should be benchmarked, right? And users should test the model with their own data. It doesn't matter it's approved by the FDA or not. They should test the AI model with their own data. And users should know what are the outputs of AI. Do they have DME as an output? Well, the user should at least know the, if they use for the screening, they should have knowledge on the screening as well, right? If there's no DME, they should know what's the level of severity that they want to refer those patients. Because some AI model give you only the lesions of AI model. They didn't summarize the severity level. They just give you exudate, cotton wool spot, stuff like that. And AI literacy, as I mentioned earlier, is important for both users and policymakers. I can skip this. And in summary, developing clear guidelines for AI use in ophthalmology is very important. And we should ensure ongoing monitoring and updates of AI model. And we should encourage collaboration between AI developers and clinicians and users as well. And you stay informed about evolving regulations and advancement. If we don't have AI governance, it's going to be, well, quite bad for patients. We may prone to cyber attacks or, well, malicious use of AI and many, many other things. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paisan, for the wonderful overview of the importance of governance in AI. I think it's really, really a very important factor as AI is going in all directions. So how do we have this governance? I think it is important for every country to bring in. I think we are still evolving in that. Any questions to Dr. Paisan?
So actually we were looking at Thailand because of your public health infrastructure. And you know, there's been a very big debate about more governance versus less governance in AI. And the debate seems to be divided into two halves. Which half do you stand with, more or less?
Well, I think we should stand in balance, in between. Well, I know that the difference, well, I know that India have like adaptive retinopathy screening for a long time. The same in Thailand, but the difference is, well, for India, the part that involved in this is private part, right? But
yeah, we did not have any oversight, any governance.
Yes.
Any regulations.
Yeah.
Because we were not sure of that. At that moment in time, it was, you know, the Wild West. Now we've started talking in terms of that. We are looking at those, but you know, we just wanted to learn from the Thai experience because you've been ahead of us.
Well, I think if you ask me the key factors that we can deploy this in Thailand nationwide, is because of we have user coverage insurance scheme. Our population is far less than India. I think that's the point. We don't have like, well, billion of people like India.
So you are a pilot study.
Right. Well, I can tell you about the government of Thailand. Even though we study with Google's AI, as what Dr. Kim said, for many years, and we proved that it works well. The government of Thailand still want to own AI models. So once they want to own the AI model, I think that's the difficult question because, well, they have to do it from scratch, right? Nobody's gonna give you AI model. They developed it for a long time. They won't give you AI model. They can license to you, but they won't give you. So if the government let you own it, then they have to go back and do the, develop the AI model from the scratch.
So I think your government is doing well in that because you see you have your own data localization and your data set, the algorithms that you will develop will be very topical to your populations.
Yeah.
There, you know, the generalizability is going to be very good, but it's a normative database for another population. So I think that's a judicious mix that you've got there. That's why and in fact, you've already, you know, that I was talking of that anonymized data set. They've already implemented that anonymized, that Docker thing that they have put on the web. That is a benchmarking tool that they have created for the people to test their algorithms against. You understand? They've already done that. What we are thinking of and what we are talking of today, they've already done that. So I think it's a judicious mix. You've done a great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
There are no questions. Thank you, Dr. Paisan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I call on the next speaker, Dr. John Campbell from Oregon? Case in short, is a retina surgeon and a deep interest in retinopathy of prematurity, speaking on bringing AI ROP from academia to startup.
Thank you, Dr. Kim, Dr. Paisan. It's an honor to be here. And this, I think, last talk in the session will really be a nice crystallization of some of the themes that started with Dr. Ting and Dr. Paisan as well. So they asked me to speak on our experience developing AI for retinopathy prematurity, starting in, from a scientific experiment and then moving to try and commercialize the technology. I'd like to acknowledge that the work that we'll be presenting is a big team effort that started with Michael Cheng, who's now in the National Eye Institute, and Paul Chan, and it's been a really, really great pleasure of mine to work with this group. We've now started a company called Salome Vision, and these are some of the folks in the company, and all of them are sort of part of this story. So when we started this journey, when Mike started this journey 15 years ago, it was not to develop an AI algorithm for screening. It was to solve a different problem, which is inter-observer variability. You have two doctors look at the same baby and they come up with different answers. So, that illustration shows a sort of a nice optical illusion. But, in ROP, like in many diseases, two doctors will look at the same eye and come up with different answers. And that's a problem. So that was one motivation. The second motivation is that there's a lot of unhappy babies and families around the world because lots of babies are going blind, and I don't have to tell this audience about that problem. But to put a number on it, for ROP, it's 50,000 babies a year become severely visually impaired. And the sad thing is most of these cases are preventable. And so those were the two main motivating problems. And so we started, this was Mike Chang's experiment. He developed a large data set, more than 5,000 eye exams, and had multiple graders go through and label them, zone, stage, plus for ROP. And this was at a time before AI was really a hot topic, but it was prescient because we could then use that technology to develop algorithms. We started with traditional machine learning, traditional handcrafted features, measuring dilation and tortuosity, and then used deep learning, and this paper was published in 2018 in JAMA Ophthalmology, to show that an algorithm could diagnose plus disease as well as or better than international experts. And part of the reason is that we showed that plus disease is on a spectrum. So if you take a bunch of experts and they label it, you can come up with an average diagnosis, and that average looks like a spectrum. And some people are over-callers and some people are under-callers along the spectrum. But this was one of the reasons why two clinicians looking at the same baby may not disagree. But compared to a reference standard diagnosis where you come from a consensus, the algorithm could classify against the reference standard diagnosis better than any of the individual experts. This concept then became incorporated into the international classification of ROP, now recognizing that the changes associated with plus are a spectrum, which is a really cool sort of outcome of the research. And we then took that concept to say, if you have an algorithm, maybe we don't want it to label the disease plus or not, because that means you need to treat a baby, but maybe we want it just to measure that severity along a spectrum. And so we converted the output from a plus disease classifier to an output that labels the vascular severity from 1 to 9. And we worked with this collaborative community on ophthalmic imaging to sort of demonstrate the validity of that and got them to endorse this as an appropriate output for a software as medical device. So this is part of the journey of working with the regulatory bodies, or the para-regulatory bodies in this case, to lay the groundwork to reduce the obstacles for regulatory approval, which is a big challenge. We demonstrated that the vascular severity is proportional to the overall level of ROP in an eye, so not just proportional to plus disease, but proportional to the level of the degree of stage in an eye. And because of that, we demonstrated that using just the vascular severity, that is a single number associated with the dilation and tortuosity in the back of the eye, it could be used for autonomous ROP screening. That is just a simple number from an eye exam of a baby on a RetCam or a Forus, and these are all independent data sets. Sundrop data set is a telemedicine data set from Darius Mashvegi at Stanford, US population. And then these two data sets are from the Aravind Eye Care System, where we validated, none of this data was used for training, this was all for external validation. We demonstrated that we didn't miss any babies with severe treatment requiring ROP. We also showed that because of inter-observer variability, if you use the AI algorithm assistively to assist the physician making the diagnosis, that we could improve clinical diagnosis of ROP compared to not using the AI. I went through all of that very quickly to make the simple point that none of this matters if it can't be used by patients. So in the last few minutes of the talk, I'm going to talk about our challenges and obstacles and opportunities to bring this technology to patients. And I use sort of this, this bar to show the first part of that is really, really well done in the academy. The last part of it, the implementation, sustainability, as Dr. Ting talked about, really has to have commercial partners because it really needs to be scalable and commercially viable long term. And so we started this company to try and move this journey. But the problem is we had an algorithm that's a bunch of code on a computer that's separate from the patient. It's all validated on one camera system, which we don't control, and which isn't used very much, partly because it's very expensive. And most of the time, documentation happens this way. So we have a challenge in terms of getting to market. As a result, in order to overcome that challenge, we decided to build the entire infrastructure. So not just have the AI algorithm, but develop a cloud-based system and develop our own camera systems to try and bring the technology to the bedside. And so as a result, I happen to work with some really great optical engineers, and we're developing 2 camera systems to solve this problem of getting the AI technology to patients, because the existing companies weren't that interested in tackling that challenge. That then brings into the issues of how you make it profitable, because to get through US FDA, even with an AI algorithm, it's going to cost several $1 million. And if you know anything about the economics of ROP, you're never going to make that money back because there's just simply not enough babies, not enough click fees, remuneration isn't good enough. So to really achieve this from a public health perspective, you have to go through this. The advantage is because it's not a very big market, there's not a lot of people trying to do it. We did get breakthrough status from the FDA, which gives us a little bit of an advantage. And we have a promising imaging technology. Downside, the reimbursement is poor. There's currently no predicate for assistive AI. So in the US, we have to go through a longer regulatory pathway, and the market size is small. And of course, we all know this, it's a worldwide problem, but the majority of the clinical need is not in the United States. And so it's a smaller motivator for the FDA. I'm almost to the end here, but the similarities, I was asked to sort of think through, bridging this translational gap. There's some similarities between being in academia and being in a startup. Similarities are in both groups we're mission driven to try and achieve this vision. In both groups we're trying to solve problems and develop new innovations. We're focused on solving problems. The problems might be different, but it really is part of the culture. Differences in time horizon. So in academics, sometimes you're focused on a grant, which may not come for a year, and then you write a paper another year later. In the startup culture, it has to move very, very quickly or you run out of money. The measures of success are different. Creating a grant or getting a paper published is very different than demonstrating to your shareholders you're moving forward on your milestones. The incentives of the funding agencies are very, very different. Funding bodies between what your metrics are of success in academia and what they are in a startup company. And then your stakeholders are very, very different. So the key question is, how do you maintain the mission focus of what started this whole vision while adapting to economic realities? And so you don't end up like this, where it says, we regret to inform you that the flying cars we promised aren't feasible, but we do hope you'll enjoy the spying vacuums. Sort of joking that to respond to economic realities, sometimes you end up with products that are very different than what you designed or wanted to come up with. So this is the journey. This paper we published with the AI task force for the American Academy of Ophthalmology, trying to address this issue of how you move from an idea that AI could reduce blindness to an actual product that's sustainable and scalable. And I'd refer you to that paper, which was a really interesting thought experiment we went through a few years ago. So again, going back to the motivation, 50,000 babies a year are going blind. How can we make that go away? And in other words, how can you make it end up where you're achieving the mission, where the stadium is empty, while also making it sustainable and scalable for whatever company and organization is trying to bring this technology to market. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. That is a wonderful overview of the challenges and coming into the reality. Yeah, thanks. Any questions to Dr. Campbell? So where are we in this ROP screening?
Yeah, one thing I didn't mention in the talk, which I should have mentioned, is one way to partner is sort of public-private partnerships. So we are working with Orbis International, which is a well-known international nonprofit, and they're motivated to help bring this technology to the global world, even in regions where there's no economic model to make it financially viable. And so our motivation has always been to see it used. And so that's one way that we're trying to achieve that. We're already deployed in Mongolia and evaluating the efficacy there. We've been working, as you know, with Airvend to demonstrate external validation and trying to create sustainable models. In the US, we're in the process of going through FDA clearance right now. And so hopefully by next year, we're on the US market with the assistive AI tool.
Okay, that's good. Do you see it going forward for further other eye conditions, other inherited retinal diseases or pediatric retinal diseases? How do you see that? Or
yeah, I think that's a great question. So ROP is the most prevalent pediatric retinal disease, and there's a lot of other rarer conditions, and you get into other challenges of validating models for that. But I think the next way you could pivot this type of infrastructure would be towards a universal newborn eye screening model, where if all of a sudden you can focus on not just the, in the US, it's 50,000 babies a year who need screening for ROP, but there's 4 million babies a year who currently aren't examined at birth. And so that's a much larger potential application, but you have to then tackle the challenges of validating models on rare diseases.
wonderful.
ROP, the algorithm, I think Dr. Peng would be able to comment more on that in terms of, you see, it looked at the vascular diameter models, and it gave us, if you go back to the original Sundrop model, from that they were able to create a predictive analytic model, and which got validated once we had the convolutional neural networks. So there is, like this was a different approach, a more mathematical approach had been used in the past, which got validated after the convolutional neural networks came.
Yeah, a lot of the challenges with some of the earlier models, including ours, was that it required manual segmentation, which made it very impractical to deploy.
Yeah, but
Actually, that made us realize that even with the manual segmentation, like we can always go back and look at the vascular diameters also. That was not something that we were looking at when we were just labeling everything with the YOLO networks.
Yeah, on that note, we've looked in ROP, and you can look at the vasculature and predict pulmonary hypertension, for example, bronchopulmonary dysplasia. Some of the
I think that's what these people did. They suddenly realized that the diameters, the computer measures the diameters much better, and they picked up 6 diseases better from the fundus images than human beings were hitting it.
Yeah, for sure.
And we didn't realize it till the time we went back and we saw the Sundrop data and the ROP data.
Yeah.
So the answers were already in the work that had already been done.
Yeah.
It became explainable AI only after their work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. There are no further questions. I want to thank the speakers for coming all the way and sharing this. Thank you all, and thanks the audience.